Jump right in, right?
Sounds good. Everyone hear me okay? Let me know if you don't at any time. And if you have any questions during the presentation, I won't really be able to see the chat, but either feel free to interrupt me, it's totally fine, or chat them to David and hit me with them. My name is Andre Zoutte. Let me go ahead and share a screen so you have something to look at and get started. Okay, do you see a big screen that says Demystifying the AWS Cert Exams?
Looks good over here.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Andre Zoutte. I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and I work for AWS. I work specifically in a team that creates the certification exams. Now, I'm a solution architect, and most AWS solution architects are assigned to customers. I'm just assigned to the certification effort. So basically, smart people get together and write the questions that appear on the exams. One of the things I do is review some of those questions for technical accuracy and make sure that they meet our standards. There's other stuff I do, but that's the one most pertinent to our discussion today. It's an exciting job for me. I really like it because I feel that a lot of the good things that have happened in my career have happened because of certification exams that I took or the preparation for them. I've been a Unix system administrator for almost 2 decades, and I was in that role for a long time. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was good at it, but I kind of felt like I was stuck. I really wasn't learning a whole lot of new stuff. Maybe I'd pick up a new operating system, or a new flavor of Red Hat, or a new tool like Puppet or Chef, but I really wasn't breaking out of that mold. And basically pivoting to cloud allowed me to do that. So welcome to this introductory session. We'll be discussing AWS certifications, how they can help propel your career, and also provide suggested material for your steps on getting started. So let's start with this. Why do people get AWS certified? What we hear from customers often relates to certifications helping advance careers, like I would say it did for mine. For example, they can play a role in motivating you to learn new skills. They can help you get promoted potentially, or they can help you take concrete steps to make a career pivot. We also hear from people they say they like the challenge of a certification exam. I'm not sure any test is really fun, but it's fulfilling for me to be able to pick a short-term goal, study for it, take it, pass it, and check that box and mark it off and go on to the other things. A lot of the projects I do in work aren't that clear-cut. They go on for a while. There are maintenance phases, but a certification exam you can take, pass, and again mark it off, which I think is cool. So Burning Glass, a labor market analytics company, forecasts that U.S. jobs that require cloud skills are going to grow by 28% in the next 5 years. I think this report's about a year old, so it's still fairly current. No matter where you are in your career, you can have an opportunity to grow with the cloud. Before we jump into the value of certifications for the people that have them and the people that employ them, what is getting certified? What do we mean by that? I think it's helpful if we talk about that real quick. So each of our certifications that we offer is basically an exam. We'll talk about how you can take the exam, but you pass or fail the certification by taking that exam and getting a certain score on it. Now, I guess fail is not the right word because it's only a failure if you stop there. You can always retake an exam. There are 2 AWS certification exams that I have not passed the first time around. I waited 2 or 3 weeks. It's got to be at least 2 weeks. And then I took it again and I passed it. So, think of it as part of your learning process if that were to happen to you. Don't stop. Don't give up from it. First, it's important to know that an AWS certification is a credential that is issued by AWS. You as an individual, not a team, not an organization, not an application, but rather you as a person can earn this credential. And you do that by taking and passing the timed and proctored exam. Now, proctored means that there's someone basically watching you to make sure that you don't do anything wrong, whether it's online or in a testing center. We'll get into that a little more. We partner with test delivery providers to actually administer the exam. There's two providers we use. One's called Pearson VUE and one's called PSI. But AWS creates the exam and all the content within it. And again, we do it with experts in the field, but we don't contract out that creation of material. Certifications are active for 3 years. So that means if I take Solution Architect Associate today, in 3 years, it's no longer considered an active cert. Now, I know it's annoying to recertify exams, but honestly, things move so quickly in this field that we felt that a certification that's older than 3 years just didn't necessarily reflect current knowledge. And there is a trick to recertifying. If you have a whole bunch of exams, I'll cover that in a little later.
So Andre, on that recertification, and you'll probably cover it, is it a Delta exam or is it a full exam?
It is a full exam. We did deltas for a while, but we just felt that, again, there was just so much new material. I mean, if you look back 3 years at the console and the options that were available for it, it's completely different from what's available now. So I know it is annoying, but yeah, we felt that we had to recertify with a full exam.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. So secondly, our certifications are industry recognized. We created this opportunity for cloud builders and professionals to validate and showcase their AWS knowledge and skills. Our exams are rigorous, so the industry can have confidence in AWS certified staff. And when you put AWS certification on your resume, it has meaning. We're proud that as of October 2020, over 400,000 individuals hold active AWS certifications. But we're even more excited that that population grew 85% between August of 2019 and 2020. There have been times when I've interviewed as a solution architect for new solution architect roles, and it's not uncommon for me to have seen AWS Solution Architect Associate required, AWS Solution Architect Professional preferred. These are two different exams, and one is much more, the professional is much more in depth than the associate, and we'll get into that. But again, for many of the jobs I looked at, they were looking at those certifications and looking quite closely at them and whether I had them or not. Third, our certifications are created by AWS experts. When we create a new certification or questions for an existing one, we gather experienced experts together, people that work at AWS, people from our partners, or just people that use it from the community. And they decide what's on the exam. They decide the questions to ask, they decide what it should take to pass. And so our exams always reflect knowledge that comes directly from the field, not just what someone in a back office is deciding should be on there. So it should be really relevant information. Another thing to know, if we come out with a new service in Amazon, and we come out with a lot of them, or if a new feature, we will not put that on the exam until it's been generally available for at least 6 months, usually a little longer than that, but we will never put something on the exam that has not been generally available for at least 6 months. So you don't have to worry that, you study for the exam, you're all ready to take it, but is it still going to, is your knowledge still going to be current? 6 months. And last, it's important to point out that AWS certifications are open to anybody. You don't have to take a certain training before you can pass one. You don't have to have any educational background. We don't verify your experience in the field. We have recommendations around these, but no requirements. So anyone can sign up for, take, and pass an exam.
So there was a question. It says, just got away from me here. Hang on one second.
Sure.
What does generally available means? Available in all regions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not necessarily all regions, no, but we have a term where we just consider a service generally available if it's available in a fair number of regions. Now, I know that sounds rather nebulous. If something's in preview, that's not considered generally available. If it's in beta, that's not considered generally available. But if you look on our new release site and it says generally available, that's the point where the clock would start ticking. So, things like local zones were only available in one region at first. That's not enough for us to put it on the exam, but we would want it to be used a little more widely before we would ask you about it on a test. And that's a great question. That's a good thing for me to point out. Okay, so what's in it for you? Now that we've answered what it is, I want to circle back and to the reasons why people get certified and why the people that employ them, why they think that AWS certifications are valuable. For anyone looking to succeed in a cloud-related role, certifications offer a specific goal with a visible and shareable outcome. Now that's key, because not only do you pass the exam, but you can prove it to other people. You don't just say that you do on your resume. You can create a link on your LinkedIn profile. You can put it in your email signature if you want. And this can all be linked back to a site called Acclaim on the provider Credly, which is a third-party site that you can share with people that will show your name and the certification and that it's active. So a cool way to prove to people that you have it, not just say that you have it. So how do I know if I'm making progress? This is, along my certification, along my journey towards learning about the cloud. This is another thing that passing a certification can help you with. Let's see, propel your career. It was helpful for me, for other people, probably has been too. When I am looking to hire someone, I don't look at just certifications. I look at, but if I get 20 resumes and a couple of them have really good pertinent certifications, a couple of them have really great experience, I'm going to start with those. And I'm going to go down the list if I don't find the right person within those resumes. But even though it might not get you a job, a certification might well get you an interview. That's how I like to think of it. And there's data to show that certified professionals report preparing for and earning certifications has an impact. 52% of certified professionals say their expertise is more sought after within their organization. They also notice that they're more effective in their jobs. Certified professionals say they are faster at completing projects and deployments are smoother. And this actually echoes what we hear from IT leaders in terms of the results they see from employing AWS certified team members. And I'm almost done with the marketing slide, so bear with me. So 91% of IT leaders say that it drives innovation. This is from a survey from ESG, the Enterprise Strategy Group. 90% see a report an increase in productivity. So why would those be? To me, I believe that it's just they have now exposure to more of the services that Amazon offers. If all you've ever done at work is used EC2 and S3, you probably know those products very well. But to study for and pass, say, the Solution Architect Associate certification, you've got to learn a lot more. You're going to be learning more about Lambda and about containers running on ECS and EKS, maybe Elastic Beanstalk. And now you have a lot more tools in your toolbox and ways that you can approach problems, thus increase productivity and increased innovation. And 86% of those leaders also say it improves security. I like to think that the reason behind that is as we're teaching you and in our training and the prep sites for the exams, we're instituting least privileged access wherever we can. We're trying to teach the concepts of least privileged access. It's easy to write an IAM security policy that just opens it up to anyone. It's much more difficult to write it correctly where you're limiting it to the people that should be using it. And of course, that's the right way to do it. And hopefully people are getting that out of the certification. And from this stat, it kind of looks like they are. So it's kind of a busy slide. These are all the certifications we currently offer. There's 11 of them, and they're broken into a couple of categories. I'm going to have a slide that talks about each of the categories, but just basically the foundational one at the bottom, that is our most basic certification. And then that moves up to associate, then professional, and then specialty off to the side. And we'll go through each of these groups a little more. So cloud practitioner foundational. We recommend that you have about 6 months of industry experience before you attempt this cert, and that you study specifically for it. It's $100 to take the certification. It constitutes 65 questions, and you get 90 minutes to pass it. Now, most people that take this have plenty of time. I'm not saying everyone does, but we generally don't hear a lot of people running out of time on this certification. Should you take this one? Now, if someone's like, say, a technical recruiter, and they deal a lot with people that talk about their S3 experience or their DynamoDB experience, things like that, those words are just gobbledygook unless they have some idea of what those things mean. So someone in that sort of a role might only want to take the cloud practitioner. That might be enough for them. Someone in a role in an organization where they pay the AWS bill might want to just take the cloud practitioner, because that at least lets them understand why, their EC2 instances, the costs seem to go up and down, but their DB instance cost for RDS seems to always be about the same. It helps them understand why those things are. So it's good for them. For anyone else, for anyone in a more technical role, this is probably not your endpoint. This is probably a stepping stone to get where you really want to go. Now, some people will skip the cloud practitioner entirely and start off straight with the associate. And I think that's fine if you say you've taken a lot of certifications before, you're comfortable with the whole testing process, then maybe you can skip it. But I'll show you an economic reason why it might be actually advantageous to take it. And, if you want to kind of ease yourself into the certification process, that's another good reason to take this. So next up the scale of complexity is the associate certifications. There's 3 of them. We recommend, again, recommend, not require, 1 year of experience using AWS services, and again, studying for and preparing for the exams. It's $150, 130 minutes, and 65 scoring opportunities. Now notice in the previous slide, I said 65 questions, and this time I said 65 scoring opportunities. There's a reason for that. I'll get to that in just a sec. So our most popular cert, the first one I ever got, was the Solution Architect Associate. If you're not sure where to start, and you're not necessarily an operations person, not necessarily a developer, Solution Architect Associate is probably the default place where you want to go. Now, if you are a developer, if you want to be tested on your ability to write Lambda functions and to use some of the development tools within Amazon, then the developer might be a good one for you. Or you might decide you want to get all 3. That's what I did. I got all 3 before I moved on to my first professional. It's up to you if you're trying to collect a lot of ones or ones that are most pertinent. Now, the operations cert is really interesting to me because this one is not just a pure multiple choice exam anymore. It now, as of the end of July, it includes labs. So what that means is you still have lots of multiple choice, about 50, 55 multiple choice questions. And then after you press submit, after you're done with all the questions, you pull up a lab. And a lab is a console into AWS, not a mock-up, but an actual console into AWS. And you're given instructions on certain things you need to do. Like you may be asked to create an S3 bucket with certain parameters or certain features. You may be asked to create an SQS, things like that. And then you're scored based on how well you accomplish those objectives. So if it was, to create an S3 bucket named this, and then if it was to create, a default encryption on that bucket, if you just created it, that might be one scoring opportunity. If you were not able to turn on the encryption, that might be one scoring opportunity that you missed, but they're all independent. So you have a chance to get partial credit from each lab. I think the labs are really awesome because they really test your ability to do something, not just to remember information.
I thought you were going to say you thought the labs were really awesome because you made them or something like that. So.
I have written a few of them. Yes, I have, but that's not why they're awesome. They're awesome. It's great to get your hands on stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then there's the professional certs. We recommend 2 years of experience, and they are longer, $300, 180 minutes, 75 questions. Notice that this is 10 more than the other 2. Time can be a factor for these exams. Time management can definitely be an issue. When I first took the Solution Architect Professional years ago, I ran out of time. I was down to the last question and I clicked C, and to this day, I don't know if it took that answer or not, but you're going to have to budget your time when you're doing the professional exams. Something I should have mentioned earlier, all the exams are available to be taken either in English, Japanese, Korean, or simplified Chinese. And the Cloud Practitioner is also available in Indonesian. If you are not a native English speaker, you can request an accommodation from the testing center, from PSI or Pearson VUE. Before you sign up for an exam, you can request an accommodation and they will give you an extra 30 minutes to complete your exam if you're not a native English speaker. So that's really useful if you just need a little extra time, and if you perhaps don't read English as well as someone that grew up with only that language. So the difference here, the Solution Architect Professional is more about architecting solutions, as I guess that makes sense. So you've got to know how things fit together. You've got to know, when you could use Kinesis with S3. I mean, when you would use Kinesis versus Firehose, when you would use a DynamoDB table as opposed to an RDS database. Those are the sorts of things that a Solution Architect Professional exam might talk about. DevOps engineer is more about CI/CD pipelines. So the code commit, code deploy, code pipeline, all of those functions or all of those services are going to be used heavily in DevOps Professional. But there are certain common points that are going to be hit across all the exams. Security, for instance, an IAM policy, it could come up in any of the exams. It just would look a little different. It'd be a little different level of complexity depending on which exam it's on. And the same thing for some of our core services, like S3, EC2 instances. I think there's every exam those could appear on. But some of them, there'll be more factors than others. Some of them you'll have to dive deeper than others. Okay, and then the specialties. Again, $300. 170 minutes, which is 10 minutes less than the professional, but only 65 questions. You can still run out of time with these, but it's not nearly as common for people to do that as they do the professional ones. Why would you get one of these? I mean, if you come up the path of a solution architecture, you've got the associate, you've got the professional, but you work with networks a lot. Then you might add the advanced networking specialty. I would pick these based on the role that you have or the role you're trying to move to. So, if I want to get into networking, but I don't have a clear way to do that, getting the advanced networking specialty might be your way in. If there's a new project that's coming up in my organization and the manager is looking for people with machine learning, and I don't have any knowledge on machine learning, I could still ask for it. And, maybe they would let me into the project based on past experience. But if I come to them and say, look, on my personal time, I've studied for and I've passed the AWS machine learning specialty, I mean, that's a compelling argument. That looks good to someone who's bringing people in, that you've taken the time to do that. Plus, they know and can prove that you have skills that are relevant to what they're going to need.
So now, Andre, you said that for a bunch of these, you've got, recommended 2 years, 1 year, et cetera. Do any of them have prerequisites that you have to have passed a certain test in order to take one?
None of them do. All of them stand on their own. You could start with the specialty. You could start with the professional. We don't recommend it. Most people would struggle with that because it's just so much to learn. But if you've been doing AWS for a long time and you feel that you're doing that, it's fine. And I mean, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, it's kind of a nebulous term, right? I mean, if you're using the service as just a little part of your job for a couple of years, you're not ready for a professional certification. Or if you're using the services in and out for a year, you probably are. So it's just a ballpark estimate, to give you an idea.
Okay.
Cool. So recommended paths, we've talked about this a little bit, how you would typically start with either the cloud practitioner or one of the associates, and then move from there, either to the professionals or specialties. I mean, some people approach the certifications kind of like Pokemon, where they got to get them all. Honestly, I kind of did that. Once I had gotten 4 or 5 of them, I was just kind of hooked, and I needed to get the rest. But I wouldn't really recommend that path. I would recommend you take the ones that are relevant to, again, the work you're doing today and the work you want to do tomorrow. That to me is the best approach. Now, while this chart is up, I'd like to talk about recertification. I mentioned there was kind of a trick to that. Each of these exams, again, the certification is valid for 3 years. However, if you take and pass the Solution Architect Professional and you already have the Solution Architect Associate and or the Cloud Practitioner, passing the Professional will recertify those 2 exams under it. So you don't need to certify those if you pass the Professional. Now you have to already have those exams and they have to be active for that to work. But if you have them and they're active, just passing the Professional will certify the ones under it. By the same token, the DevOps Engineer Professional will recertify both of these exams under it, both SysOps Administrator and Developer Administrator or Developer Associate and Cloud Practitioner. So if you have all 6 of these certs, the only 2 you need to recertify are the DevOps Engineer Professional and the Solution Architect Professional. Now, unfortunately, the specialty exams don't recertify anything other than Cloud Practitioner. They kind of are standing out there on their own. So that's a way that you don't have to, if you're like me and you have all of the certifications, I don't have to recertify all 11 each 3 years. It's a smaller number. So what do you get? And we talked about, material or immaterial benefits, such as, perhaps doing better in your job, perhaps learning things that can help you get promotions. But what else do you get for passing? Well, the first thing is digital badges. I talked about this before with the Credly Acclaim site, where you can create links from your LinkedIn profile or in your email signature that show a verifiable and visible way of showing other people that you passed a cert. You also get a discount. Any certification exam you pass, you get a coupon or a voucher for 50% off another certification exam for you. You can't share it with a friend, but you can apply it to your next certification exam if you like. Event recognition, so reInvent 2019 and reInvent this year will have something called the Certification Lounge. To get in there, you have to have an active AWS certification, and you get various things like this swag. This shirt was from the Certification Lounge of 2019. There's food and beverages available in there, things like that. And that's not just at reInvent. Some of the other AWS events have a similar thing. You also get a voucher for a free practice exam, which you can use to on your next certification. You get recognition in a global community, and you can buy stuff with AWS Certified Store. If you just don't have enough AWS logos on you and you want more, that would be the way to do it. So we talked about the free voucher, and I told you there was kind of a trick to gaming the system a little bit on saving and also saving a little money. Say my goal was to get the Solution Architect Professional Certification. That's $300, and I could just take it. And if I passed it, I'm golden. But if I instead took the Cloud Practitioner, which is our lowest cost certification, and I pass it, I get a voucher I can use on another certification. So say I roll that one into taking the Solution Architect Associate. Now, instead of it costing $150, it costs $75. And assuming I pass that, which we're going to only talk about the happy days, I get another voucher. And that voucher I can apply to the Solution Architect Professional to get 50% off. So what I'm kind of doing is waterfalling these vouchers into the more and more expensive exams. So at the bottom section of the 3 purple boxes, I've got all 3 exams done for $325 versus if I just jumped into SA Professional, it would have cost me $300. By the same token, if I decided, if someone came to me and say, hey, I only want to take the SA Professional, and they're paying for it on their own, I would say, well, just take the Cloud Practitioner first. Because if you have any chance of passing the SA Professional, you have a great chance of passing the Cloud Practitioner. It probably won't even be hard. And then you can use the voucher for $150 off. You'd get both for $275, less than if you just bought the SA Professional. Now, I know a lot of you have companies that are reimbursing you, but it's still kind of a fun way to save your company a little money, or yourself if you're buying it on your own. So where do you begin? Make a plan, commit to the preparation. Successful candidates tell us that they create a schedule. First, they pick a date when they want to take the exam, then they work backwards from that day with a preparation plan. You do this because you don't want to be, having to cram in the last couple days before your exam.
That worked pretty good in college, though.
It does, but we're really not trying to just get you to pass the course. We're trying to get you to have knowledge that you can apply in a successful career going forward. And maybe that worked for you for college, but maybe not. I don't know what your degree was in. Real world experience. So Julius Caesar said, experience is the best teacher. And he was not AWS certified, but the same logic applies. Get real world experience wherever you can. Now, when I was working and trying to study for the certification exams, what I did at work was I raised my hand a lot. Anyone that was working on a project that dealt with AWS, I volunteered to help. And it got me a lot of knowledge that I wouldn't have received otherwise. Another thing that we recommend is that you get an AWS free tier account. So a free tier account is a way to sign up for an AWS account.
I told you that we did it.
And for many services, you don't pay anything. You have to be a little bit careful because there's some stuff in there that still costs you. For instance, if you want to register a domain site, or if you want to spin up one of our more expensive instances, that will charge you, but the free tier will generally warn you that you're doing that. But if you just want to spin up a small instance or create some S3 buckets, things like that, you can stay within the free tier. There are also lab sites available where you can, I mentioned there are labs associated with exams, but there are also lab sites where you can basically just have projects that you work on and have it all done through a console and nice and neatly prepared for you. So the resources, the documentation, okay, it's not really exciting to read documentation, but it'll sure teach you a lot. Now, I'm not sure I would just pick up one of our documents on any services and read it front to back, but a nice way around that, a shortcut, is to read the FAQs. Almost all of our services have a section called Frequently Asked Questions where they define major components of that service, major features of that service. They'll tell you what services it integrates with, what encryption protocols it supports, things like that. And they're really useful factoids of information.
So there was one question real quick. And excuse me if I pronounce your name wrong, but it looks like Selva asked, I'm a Java developer and completed architect and developer certs. Which of the two or both would you recommend as the next pro cert?
I'm sorry, which associate cert did she have, or did Selva have?
Has completed architecture and developer certs.
Okay.
Architect.
You've kind of split the whole gambit. You could go either way. I would say, what do you want to do with it? You're a Java developer. Do you want to stay developing Java? If so, then I would say DevOps makes more sense. If you like to architect the solutions that you're also developing, then I would go for the Solution Architect Pro. But knowing nothing else, I would say DevOps Pro is the more logical choice for you. Awesome, thank you. So white papers, we publish a lot of them, and they're, I couldn't sit down and read a whole white paper front to back, but I could read a chapter here and there, and that's what I would recommend. And there's a website where we show you training materials for each of the certification exams, and it includes a guide that says which FAQs are most relevant to each exam and which white papers are most relevant to each exam. So that's a good way to not have to read the whole thing and just find the ones that are relevant. Training, big deal. AWS offers training. A lot of other people offer training. We offer all of our digital training is free. We also offer classroom training, either remote or in person. We have training partners that you can bring in. There are also a lot of third-party sites that provide training for AWS certifications. And I can't talk directly to those because I don't work for them, but I would like to leave some time at the end of this talk. Anyone who uses the other training sites like A Cloud Guru, Linux Academy, Pluralsight, people like that, I'd like to give a chance for anyone on the call to tell us what their experience with them is. So Selva, maybe you could tell us, how effective you thought whatever training you used was. And I would also say that taking a practice exam is useful. Our practice exams are questions that are similar to our normal certification questions, and you get to take them in a timed, online environment. So it kind of helps model you and prepare you for the actual certification exams. So what do you want to do when you're thinking of actually scheduling the exam? First off, schedule ahead. What do I mean by this is that a lot of people take exams near the end of the year. It's a popular time. I don't know if they just have a requirement that they've got to have one done, or they've told their boss they're going to have one done in 2021 or something, but the end of the year tends to be a popular time. I would hate for someone to be planning for this, and then it's mid-December and they try to set something up and they find that there's no slots available the rest of the year. The testing centers and online proctoring, it's not an auto-scaling group. There are limited resources. There are a limited number of proctors. So schedule ahead and make sure you don't get disappointed when you're ready to take your exam. So as I kind of alluded to before, you can take it at a testing center or online. A long time ago, before COVID, we only offered testing centers exams, and then when COVID hit, we switched to including online proctoring because the testing centers were closed and no one could take their exams anymore. We're leaving the online proctoring in place currently for all of our exams, and some people find that a real effective way to take it. Other people would rather go to a testing center. I've got a slide coming up, I think next or right after it, that kind of shows you some decision points you might make around which one of those you choose. We have two testing vendors, Pearson VUE and PSI. So why do you care? If you live in a city and there is a Pearson VUE testing site 3 blocks away, and there's a PSI testing site on the other side of town, then you're probably better off with the Pearson VUE. So that's why we give you the choice between the two testing vendors. To take a test, to take one of our certification exams, you have to have an AWS certification account. Now, don't worry, this account doesn't bill anything. It's just a way of us knowing who you are and having your information so that when we say that you passed the certification, we have a name associated with it. So yeah, kind of a big slide, a lot of information here. This is basically how you should determine between whether you want to use a testing center or online. I would say some of the big things are, testing centers are open in most areas now. If there's one convenient for you, that's a plus for that. If the internet at your house is not very reliable, then I would recommend you go to a testing center. If you don't like getting out, if you at high risk for diseases or more comfortable staying in your house, then that's a plus for the online proctoring. If you work all day and you want to take your test at night, that's something that can be more easily solved with the online proctoring. There are no bio breaks allowed when you're doing online proctoring. They have to keep you in camera the whole time. So yeah, bathrooms are not an option. At most testing centers, they will give you a break. They'll give you 5 minutes to go use the restroom. So if you decide to do online proctoring, there's some tips that we recommend. First off, each of the vendors has a piece of client software that you can install on your laptop, and you can run a test. Now, one of the things it's testing is that you can turn off all other applications. It has to make sure that there's no other applications running, so you can't do screen grabs or things like that. Some laptops have a hard time turning everything off. If you have a work laptop that has a virus checking program, it might not be able to be disabled, and you want to find out that early rather than the day of your test. Read the confirmation email from the testing vendor, and it'll give you all that information. When it's your test time, check in early. Don't wait. If your test is at 9 a.m., don't log at 9 a.m. Log in, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before that to get ready. So one time I took an exam and I forgot my power cord. So once the exam started, you can't leave that room. So, and unfortunately the client hid how much power I had left. So I was just winging it. And I was going through those last questions lickety split. And I finished the exam with 12% power. So I did pass it. So it was okay, but it could have ended badly. And hydration planning. Hydrate, but not too much if you're going to be on the online proctoring, because again, can't use a bathroom. By the same token, if your son or daughter walks into the room while you're taking your exam and your significant other follows them in, the test is invalidated. They can't allow anyone else to be in the room. There are a couple other things that they will catch you on, but they won't invalidate the exam. If you talk to yourself while you're reading, they will ask you not to. If you cover your mouth, they will ask you not to because you could be talking. But they won't kill the test because of that. If you continue to do it again and again, they might, but they will just, they will just let you know and try to get you to stop that behavior, and the test will continue. Any other questions so far, David?
Nothing yet.
Hey, Andre, this is Alva. I have one more question.
Yes,
so with the certification, what could you do to improve your chances to get a job? If you are going to an interview, what would you show that you have done because you didn't have any chance to do them at your work to improve your chances of getting a job?
So you're saying if you have the certification, how do you prove it on your interview?
Yeah. What could you show as besides the certification that you can actually do the job?
Well, also besides the certification?
Right. I was thinking, like, are there any online project or something where you could join, contribute, or you can have a GitHub projects? What are the possibilities? Yeah,
it's a good question. I'm not sure I have a great answer for you. I would say contributing to projects is good. And anytime I've had developers that are going to interview, make sure you have a public Git account that you can bring and highlight your work. I think that's always useful. And on your LinkedIn profile, make sure that you have links to all your certifications, just as one easy place. We have jam sessions. Amazon has jam sessions you can participate in. These can be good for networking, and it can be good to kind of help you fine tune some of your programming skills in a fast-paced environment. So codeathons and participation or winning codeathons is a great thing to show your expertise. Does that help, Salva?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andre.
Sure. Okay, next slide.
The group too much, but it is that catch-22 of how do you get the experience if you don't have the job, and you need experience to get the job. But like Andre said, networking is critical. So if you're ever able to attend here in person, sometimes we have people that are looking for people, and we're a little lean here physically tonight in the room, but sometimes we do have a pretty good group. So just networking would be my 2 cents on one of the best ways to find opportunities.
Very good ad, and you get a sandwich.
Yep, they were tasty.
So his kids aren't going to have any? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly not. So talking about leftovers earlier.
Okay. So exam readiness. So you study for it. You think you're set. Amazon offers webinars under the link that I've sent here, and I'll include the slide deck to David. David, do you present these to the group or make it available or what?
I'll make them available online, and we'll make this recording available online as well.
Great. The link at the bottom of the page can take you to a site where you can sign up for free webinars that include exam readiness training. So this isn't going to teach you everything you need to know for the exam, but it'll kind of go over the stuff that's likely to be on it. And then, you can fill in any gaps that you find. So if the instructor on the webinar says, oh, here, we should look at DynamoDB tables, and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about DynamoDB tables, that's your clue to learn a little bit more about that before you sit the exam. And then again, we offer digital training, we offer classroom training. The digital training is free. The classroom training comes with a cost. Oh, I'm sorry. Back to the webinars. One thing that's really cool about them is they have a Q&A session at the end of each one. So if you've looked through the docs and there's Kinesis data streams or Kinesis data firehose, but you're really not sure when you would use one over the other, ask it at the webinar. Ask it at the Q&A session, and the instructor there will be able to tell you.
So Jason asked a question about Udemy, and I think we're going to talk about third-party sites here in a little bit. So Jason, I'm going to hold off on your question for a minute. Perfect, thank you. And we're almost to the end. So one thing I'd recommend is to get started. This website is pretty useful. It's got a lot of good information about each of the exams, and there's some general stuff for AWS exams overall. The biggest thing I see is that people need to just commit to it. I've seen people that said, well, I've gone through the practice exams, I do well, I've gone through the training materials, I think I understand it, but there's still parts of it I don't know. There's always going to be parts you don't know. There's plenty of parts I don't know, and everyone at AWS is in the same boat. No one knows it all. So, once you think you're pretty close, it's probably time to go ahead and sign up for the exam, and then fill in any gaps for those last couple of weeks. But don't be stuck in analysis paralysis. Be ready to go ahead and take it. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And now what I would like to do is give you a chance to talk about other third-party training sites and success that people have had with them. So Robert, I was going to say, Robert, you just passed which test did you take again?
Yeah, certified professional.
And what did you use there?
I did I went online, YouTube, and found a guy that was reviewing notes on the test, and it was about a 4-hour. It was about a 4-hour video. I broke it down and took notes on it, and it took me about a week worth of time to write down the notes. And then I used that, but also did an essentials class for the certified. I did essentials class online classroom. It was given through my employer. I had access to my employer.
That's
And then I also did the website. I looked at the FAQs on certain services, and I read more information about the certain services there.
Okay.
And so I think that was pretty much what I did. And I just made a routine where I reviewed the notes an hour each morning, an hour each evening, and then just, it became part of my vocabulary. Because that first one is, to me, it's about vocabulary. It's about understanding the services and back within the AWS and the vocabulary. And so that was very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. And I would even mix in there. I mean, studying is great, but I would also get your hands on the console, trying stuff out. If you're learning about, an SQSQ, go ahead and set one up too, because looking through the console and seeing what options it comes up with will help it stick in your mind.
Yeah, and I did do some of that myself. There was, some post that my employer did, social post, said, if you want to set this up, this is how you do it. If you want to set this up, this is how you do it. So I did get a free, I got an account, years, and I went through some of those, solutions or some of those scenarios.
That's awesome.
I think somebody online was trying to say something.
Oh, sorry, David, did you say me or someone else?
No, anybody, go for it.
Okay, so you're okay. There's also a question about Udemy. So let me talk about Udemy because I got Udemy business license through my employer. That's what I used to pass the 3 certifications, including the cloud practitioner. The way, so by the way, first, Andre, it's great points. All the points that you have mentioned, I learned the hard way. I wish I had this session before, including the bio break, including the power card. I ran into all of them, including I had my I had my hand on my cheek one time, just thinking, and then the proctor came online and said, you just take your hand off. So I did go through all of them that you're talking about. Those are great points. So coming back to Udemy, the way I did is I went through the Udemy course fully one time, just watching it, not doing anything. And then the second round, I started doing with one monitor, the Udemy course will run. On the other monitor, I will log into AWS console or AWS CLI. I will do every one of them that the instructor does on the course. So I did completely, and then I did it again and again until I got all of them, then moved on to the next chapter. So that's how I used Udemy. And then at the end, I used the test. There is also like a 6 test for one of the course. I took the test on a Saturday morning. I would use the entire weekend just to analyze, what went wrong, where do I have to study again. And then I did it again after 2-3 days later. I did it again. So I did 4 of them before those were my last 2 weeks before the actual test date. Like you said, I get, do it in the first thing in the morning before the work starts. Another thing I did was there was exam readiness that AWS offers, so you can attend those online. I am in Eastern time zone, so I picked the one exactly on the 12 hours apart. So I would join the Hong Kong time or Singapore time course, so I don't have to take time off from my regular day work. So I would do like 9 to 11 in the evening, if I want to attend that. Also, there were some free courses available on AWS that I was watching. Besides the documentation. So documentation is so good. There are so many use cases. If you do the use cases, you fully understand and you will not forget after that.
Those are great. And I mean, your dedication is awesome. And my hat's off to you. One thing I also should have mentioned is, if you can't go to reInvent, most everything or many of the sessions on reInvent are posted on YouTube. So, make a playlist of some of the most highly rated YouTube sessions and that are associated with the exam you're interested. That's also a good way to learn. But all your things were awesome.
Anybody else? Well, Andre, anything you wanted to add for us today?
You want to hear an embarrassing story?
Absolutely.
So, another of the dangers of online proctoring. I was in my son's old room. He's off at college, so I wasn't really familiar with this room. It's got kind of a slick chair. So I'm sitting in the chair at the desk. The proctor says, "Let's pan the laptop to the left." I do it. Pan the laptop to the right. Now pan behind you. I did that, and I slid right out of the chair. I bounced against the ground a couple times and came to a stop, still holding the laptop. And I'm like, oh man, are they going to cancel my exam? I'm sure this is against some sort of rule, but no. nothing from the proctor at all for about 10 seconds. I figured they're laughing themselves silly, preparing a video to upload to YouTube of this, but they came on the exam and said, oh, I guess everything's good. Go ahead and start your exam. So they're fairly forgiving.
No, that's okay. We're getting ready, unfortunately, to wrap up just about.
That's okay.
Was there anybody else online that had any questions? I'll provide you a link online to the video. It'll be in the group, so. All right, Andre, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you helping us out with this event and filling us in, and hopefully it motivated a few people. Thanks to Robert from Cloudhesive. He gave us some food and drink tonight, and so hopefully everybody can join us for the next one in person and meet him. And my name is David. If you need anything from me, feel free to reach out to me on the AWS group. Otherwise, look for a link to see the video and for any materials Andre will provide for me. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Stop recording.